I am not religious. I am spiritual. I am not religious. I am spiritual. I am spiritual. I am is spiritual. I am spiritual, not religious. And why would I be religious when God, or whatever you choose to call him, the creator, the divine, source, the most high, why would I be religious when in fact the creator of all things himself is not religious? He is not religious, and in accordance with the words of the Messiah as found in the book of John, chapter 4, it confirms that he is spirit. Let me pause and read that for you all. So, in this story found in the 4th chapter of the book of John in the New Testament, there's a Samaritan woman that the Messiah is having a conversation with. And after he pretty much reads her, she proceeds to show him the place where she and her family and the people in her village go to worship. And so that story picks up at John chapter 4, verse 19. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. The Messiah saith unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship, you know not what. So he basically told us she didn't know what she was worshiping. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews, or Hebrews, because Jews wouldn't have been a word then when this was originally written, but it is what it is. Verse 23, But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. And now, for the coup de grace, verse 24. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. All right. Back to my message. The word is not religion. It is spirit. See John chapter 1, verse 1. Why don't we pause and read that as well? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Word is spirit. Word is not religion. I am not religious. I am spiritual. The man whom the world rebranded Jesus Christ was not religious. He was spiritual, and he taught spiritual concepts and principles. He did not teach religion. In fact, if he were religious, the religious establishment would not have gone after him. If he were religious, the religious establishment would not have gone after his disciples and apostles later on down the line. They went after them because they were not religious. They were spiritual. Abraham was not religious. He was spiritual. And yet somehow he is credited with being the father of 3, not 1, not 2, 3 major world religions. How is that so? How is it that a man who was not religious had his name applied to Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, the three Abrahamic religions. Isn't that a bit of an oxymoron that a person, or isn't it a bit ironic that a person who is not religious is credited for three major world religions? In fact, Jesus Christ, isn't it ironic that a spiritual man who was not religious had a religion fashioned after his life? And I'm not saying fashioned after his teachings, because there are a lot of people out there who claim to be Christians. There are a lot of seminaries out there that give people doctorates of divinity and ordain them as pastors and such, and tell them they're free to go and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, when in fact, all they're doing are preaching the accounts of his life and some of his teachings, although all they're really doing is scratching the surface. They're not doing a deep dive on the spirituality of his teachings. The biggest one that jumps off the page at you is the kingdom of heaven is within you. Why does no one do a deep dive on that? Why does everyone tell everyone to look up to the sky and that if they're a good person, they'll die and go to heaven? And the kingdom is somehow the church establishment and these church organizations and their spin-off organizations being different charities that are sponsored by different churches. Why is that known as the kingdom? And yet the Messiah told his disciples and those who would listen that if they say the kingdom of heaven is here or there, don't believe them, because the kingdom of heaven is within you, is inside of you. He taught them to look within. Why does Christianity teach you to look without? I am not religious. I am spiritual. I am spiritual. Pay attention. So I say all of that to say this. Before some of you who love to do it come into the comments section of my various different videos and attempt to attack my spiritual breakdown of spiritual texts written by spiritual men and women. And oh yes, don't think for 1 minute that women didn't write some of these ancient texts that were, hijacked, spun around, slap it up, flipped it, rubbed it down, all that good stuff, and put into these different religious books. Don't think that women didn't have a role in the writing of some of those ancient texts. I refuse to believe that. Why? Because wisdom is a feminine energy, which emanates from the sixth chakra, which is a feminine energy zone. Writing is a product of the second chakra, or second energy zone, or sacral chakra. That too is a feminine energy. Now, it doesn't mean that men can't write and that men can't perceive, because both men and women have 3 parts masculine, 3 parts feminine with regards to their 7 major chakras, okay? But again, you are not going to tell me that, with the case being that feminine energy zones are more powerful in women, and conversely masculine energy zones are more powerful in men. With that being the case, you cannot make me believe that women at some point in time were not responsible for the writing of a considerable amount of these texts that became scripture, that have, been fashioned into the Bible and several other various different religious books. But I digress, okay? Before you come into the comment section of my various different videos where I'm breaking down spiritual concepts, all right, and trying to attack my spiritual breakdowns of spiritual texts written by spiritual men and women who were inspired by the Spirit, the Great Spirit, okay? Before you show up to attack these spiritual works using your religious doctrine, if you believe the spiritual and divine nature of the scriptures to be true, then ask yourself one important question. Am I spiritual, or am I religious? And if your answer is the latter, then I want you to ask yourself why. And maybe you even care to share that in the comments section. Save all of us who are spiritual. Save us all. I get so many comments from people coming into the comment section. Some of them are blunt with it, and some of them soft shoe it. But there are these attempts to save my soul as though I'm a lost soul because I'm doing the same thing that the Messiah was called a devil for. Teaching spiritual concepts that disrupted the status quo of religion. Is religion okay? It's okay to a degree, but religion is supposed to be training wheels. Religion is supposed to be training wheels. No grown man, grown woman should be spending their entire lives under religious doctrine and under the leadership of some either self-anointed or establishment anointed holy man, if you will. Why? 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 Why, when the most set apart individual in history, perhaps, the Messiah, the man who was rebranded Jesus Christ, taught them to go within and find God? That when they went inside and found who they were, then they would, in effect, find the God in them. And refer to Psalms 82, because he did. He did when the Pharisees tried to jam him up, when the religious men tried to jam him up for referring to himself and the ones he was talking to as gods. He said, "Isn't it written in your laws?" Your laws? He was referring to the text from Psalms 82. If you say you're not spiritual, but you are religious, ask yourself why you're religious when all of the above are true. God is not religious. He is spirit. I read the passage of scripture for you. And everything ultimately rolls back up to divine creator, source, energy, the Most High. He said, "Let us create man in our own image and our own likeness." I say this in so many videos. The image is the appearance. The likeness is the functionality. That's all I got for y'all today. Stay righteous, family. And let that righteousness be in alignment with the laws of the universe. Let it be in alignment with universal laws and principles over and above the doctrine of men, okay? What are some examples of universal law? Whatsoever man sows, that will he also reap. That's universal law. It always happens. You can try to escape it, but you cannot. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. That's a universal law. Don't set a trap for somebody. Especially don't try to set a trap for a righteous person, a chosen one. You're going to fall hard in that trap. It's going to hit you harder than you intended for it to hit them. Always happens that way. Universal law. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Now, that's not a law per se. That's more or less an instruction, but it is a divine principle. Because if you're treating somebody the way you want to be treated, then you're not going to cause anyone else any harm any more than you would cause yourself. These are spiritual principles. You don't have to be in church to learn them. You don't have to be a part of a religious organization to learn them. They are not religious doctrine, although the religious establishment took them on. These are spiritual and universal principles. So, above all, family, prefer truth. Prefer truth. This is why probably my favorite description of the Most High God, source energy, is the spirit of truth. Why? Because the truth is undefeated throughout all time, space, and existence. The truth always wins. It always has, and it always will. So prefer truth, both the giving of truth and the receiving of truth. The truth may hurt, but receive it openly. To reject the truth is to harden your heart. And speak no lies. Speak truth. Prefer the truth. That's all I got, family. I'm going to end with this. Tell somebody you love them and mean it. How do you mean it? You have to show it. Love is a verb. It is a noun as well, but when we focus on the verb, the noun always takes care of itself. I am not religious. I am spiritual. And when your eyes have been opened to the truth, perhaps you too will see that you, at your very core essence, are also spiritual. Peace, family.